the Advanced Practicum and Apprenticeship in Community Building, Class 3, Building Trust and Mutual Support in Your Community. Hello, I'm Jim Morningstar, Director of Transformations and your guide through this 8-session Advanced Practicum and Apprenticeship in Community Building. The focus of this third class is integrating the principles of spiritual psychology into your life and teaching communities, operating with the certitude of who you are and reinforcing the daily tools of mental mastery such that your mind is working continuously for your highest purpose, modeling these principles as you teach them and creating an ethic of mutuality in all your groups. Let's start with further exploring who we essentially are as a community builder on this earth with a guided meditation. To begin, find a comfortable chair or mat where your spine may be straight. Steady your gaze as you allow your eyes gently to close. Observe your breath and begin softly to inhale through the nostrils, relaxing the abdomen outward. This will allow the diaphragm to move downward and the lungs to expand into the lower chest cavity. Now hold a deep, full inhalation for a moment and then slowly breathe out through the nostrils. Repeat this and bring a calm state of mind and an ample supply of oxygen into your being. Now visualize your spinal column as being a hollow pipe. Allow it to become a breathing instrument by mentally transferring the sensation of inhaling and exhaling to it. Perceive that your breath is moving interdimensionally through your spine, upwardly as you inhale and downwardly as you exhale. As you breathe in, hold this gift of energy and love to be the presence of our unconditionally loving Divine Mother. As you breathe out, experience the cleansing release of all things temporal and be received into the embrace of our unconditionally loving Divine Father. Allow this process to continue and completely surrender to a rhythmic and harmonious flow of energy on all levels of consciousness. Now focus your attention on the heart and see within it a spark of light. Notice this light growing through your source, nurturing and your acceptance of it until it becomes a womb-like aura containing the presence of a child. Look into the eyes of this child and form a steady gaze. Let there be a transmission of love, recognition, and wisdom. This child is not the younger version of your human history, but the everlasting soul that you are, always young, tender, and innocent, compassionate and wise. This divine child is you, as seen through the eyes of divine source. This divine child lives in a state of heaven consciousness. In the presence of this child, accept yourself for all that you've been and all that you've ever experienced. On the flow of your soft and rhythmic breath, enjoy the sweet and eternal dialogue between your original self, created in the image of Source, and the self that has evolved through many challenges and adventures. Love, as original self, is now engaged with love that has been modeled by experience. Enjoy the pleasure of knowing your whole self. Remind yourself that you can return to this state of heaven consciousness whenever it beckons. As you are ready, bring yourself back to your surroundings, which have now been infused with your radiance in just this brief span of time. Know that every time you share your highest with others in community, you not only change yourself, but all around you. This is our life work and what we came here to champion in one another. In this class, we will look at models of spirituality and psychology and how they can blend seamlessly to give us a clear roadmap on our journey as community builders. The goal of spiritual psychology is to live with purpose and to join with and inspire others to do the same. What is spiritual psychology? In a true classic sense, the term is redundant. Spiritual psychology is the study of the psyche, the personification of the human soul, and it must be spiritual, that is, concerned with the animating principle of life. Since our Western scientific heritage and traditional psychology has assigned the mind and body to the realm of the measurable, science, and the spirit to the domain of faith, religion, there's been a split in our understanding and approach to these essential aspects of the human phenomenon. The advent of holism as a philosophical tenet in the latter part of the 20th century heralded a fundamental shift in consciousness from linear or causal thinking toward systemic awareness. We can no longer operate with an old mechanical model if we are to understand the interdimensional realities that allow us so much freedom and expansion in our capabilities. It is critical that we have a psychology that not only admits the existence of the human spirit, but also takes it fully into account in knowing and understanding human behavior. Just as important for us is to have a spirituality that incorporates the discoveries we have made about mind-body connection and how the mind and body mirror and manifest our spiritual intentions. To keep the two realms separate is to keep us split and severely limited in our knowledge and treatment of the whole human being. Spiritual psychology is not just a New Age phenomenon. Each generation brings in a new age of sorts, but the changing values during the latter part of the 20th century heralded a paradigm shift in worldview that got the label New Age, astrologically associated with the age of Aquarius. As often happens when there is a great departure from a former system, as we go through in adolescence, the swing is radical and in the beginning can be ungrounded. For example, if accumulation of material wealth was a prominent value in a prior system, then anything and everything that is non-material may be embraced and assumed to be of value in the beginning of a new system. We have matured over time, however, beyond the artificial split between material and non-material, science versus religion, and have begun to evolve integrated, valuable advances in world consciousness. What can we learn from traditional approaches to spirituality? The goal of spiritual pursuit has been called enlightenment. This is a form that connotes a higher state of consciousness in which individuals live in a non-dual reality, able to emit and shed light on areas of darkness or confusion in which most humans live. There appears to be a molecular shift in such individuals that affect not only their way of seeing life, but also their bodies in the way they participate in life. Scientific studies have been done on individuals with reputed higher states of consciousness, which document dramatically lower levels of the indices associated with fear and tension, as well as abilities to regulate autonomic neurological functions out of the range of most humans. There have been these individuals documented throughout human history. Let me say here that I witness the general level of human consciousness is raising, and that every one of us has had tastes of these states, and that if we are open systems individuals committed to growth, we continue to elevate our consciousness throughout our life. My goal here is to go beyond having occasional, quotes, peak levels of awareness, or as I would say, times when we get a peak at more resourceful living, to a more steady state of higher awareness. As the contemporary philosopher of consciousness, Ken Wilber, states it, going from waking up, that is, experiences of getting high, to growing up, responsibly living with greater integration. Now, how to evolve these higher levels? From traditional spiritual teaching, there are three major paths to enlightenment: jnana, bhakti, and karma, or spiritual study, devotion, and good works. Like most intellectual divisions, in practice they are not so clear-cut. We can grow in and practice on all three paths. I associate them with the three major energy centers in the human body: the third eye, the seat of wisdom; the heart, the center of devotion; and the lower dantian, the gut, as the center of power and fortitude to lead the good life in the face of all obstacles. Now understand, this is just my interpretation of these traditions, as exemplified for me by wise teachers like the Dalai Lama or Saint Germain, heart-centered devotional mystics like Teresa of Avila or Rumi, and those known for their service to the world like Gandhi or Mother Teresa. Indeed, all of us incorporate aspects of all three paths, yet often have a penchant for one to which we're attracted. I, for example, spent much of my early life in study, always in school and always carried a book with me, had a pile of them on my desk, and even founded the School of Spiritual Psychology. My later work took me into heart-centered devotional practices on a daily basis, the teachings of Yeshua around love as who we are, and the practice of holy vision. All while I was immersed in body-centered therapy and work with serving clients most of the days of the week. This all led to my changing the name of my work to the School of Integrative Psychology, which promotes components of all three traditional spiritual paths and a holistic approach to psychology. This, I believe, gives us all the opportunity to explore all of our potentials and to select the techniques and illuminate our shadows, unconscious, and reinforce our gifts and joy in service to the world. Now, my experience has shown me that peak experiences such as breakthroughs in enlightenment exercises or therapeutic breathwork can jumpstart our movement from places of stuckness. But it is the commitment to daily practice that leads to steady states of inner peace and certitude of who we are. I believe it is our role as teachers and community builders to provide our community members with options to explore, discover, and integrate with a modicum of guidance and feedback from ourselves and peers along the way. This is different from the former paradigm of education in which, quotes, facts are given to be memorized and repeated, especially in religious education that purports to impart universal truths through dogma. In this class, I will present 2 points of view around the integrative teachings of spirituality, from a Christian, Western, and a Buddhist, Eastern perspective. Then I will share my approach to integrative psychology, which is experiential. Love is who you are. The first integrative approach to spirituality, which has influenced me greatly, is the love-centered teachings of Yahshua. These do not come from culturally based Christianity. They are more inclusive and holistic in their orientation. Here are some of these teachings about love as who you are, the very substance of being itself, not a commodity you can gain or lose. Yes, you can acknowledge and own your source or reject and forget it. This is the power of who we are as divine beings, children of God, as it were, rather than just creatures of God. When we choose love, we release the anxiety of trying to earn it. When we live the love we are, we re-own the power to manifest in alignment with Source at will. Here are quotes by Yahshua from Love Without End by Glenda Green. We have drifted so far away from the source of our being that we think of ourselves as separate from love. One of the main causes for this unfortunate occurrence is that we try to know ourselves through mirrored images. We seek to gain self-understanding through feedback, evaluation, and opinion. Yahshua called these reflectance. If one fully comprehends why a flame cannot step aside to see itself burn, and why water cannot see itself flow, then one can also appreciate his own eternal mystery. Surrendering to that mystery will yield more wisdom than any reflection full of illusion could ever reveal. Once this is accepted and experienced in good faith, there'll be no further need for external formulations of self-worth. He stated, "You seek to know love by your own efforts and the efforts of others in turn. So you've learned to think of love as an action, an external thing. It's even bartered as a commodity. Such ideas of viewing love externally have led you to judgment and separation from the true source of love and your own higher nature. The truest way to know your love is not by reflectance, but by the joy you feel in being yourself. That joy is the soul's pleasure in the presence of love incarnate. Whatever you experience as joy is the cup of your love overflowing. By your joy, you shall know your love and the nature of your soul as it casts your love upon the waters of life." Now, this is truly profound and life-changing if you feel it in your heart rather than take it as an interesting hypothesis. We know our true essence by the joy we feel in being ourselves, not the pain we've accumulated and the false identities we've taken on as a result of our history. This can set us off in a direction of finding the joy in everything given us each day rather than trying to see what is wrong or dangerous in every circumstance so we can avoid pain. It's our choice to see life as a treasure hunt or an obstacle course full of hidden dangers. Again, love is not something that can be forced or manipulated. It is not something to be frivolously called forth, except by the very will of love itself. Love is a power beyond our ability to control, although by understanding the power of love, we are given command of life. In love's presence, we experience true humility and stand in awe of its power. Love's expressions can never be fully predicted, yet it's important to accept love as it unfolds, even when it seems to be taken away from you for a while. This happens so that you will search for the beloved within yourself and within the hearts of your other brothers and sisters. If all you know of the beloved is one person, then where would there be a place for anyone else? Even if your only love were God, everyone else would so fall short that you would do nothing but judge. You'll be given a taste of love and then allowed to hunger for a while so that you will seek for love within yourself and within greater and greater stretches of reality. It is not the will of God that you should live within limiting, self-possessed bubbles, but rather that you have all of reality for your playground. So the game of life is like the most primitive game of peekaboo, over which children squeal with delight. Where did Daddy go? There he is. Where did Daddy go? There he is. So we continuously become enlightened and then forget. This is because we experience life through our mind, which is always in, on, and off categories. When we come to see life continuously with holy vision through our heart, there is no on and off. There's simply infinite ways of creating with love. The passions of higher love. Highest meaning is in reference to a sacred bond joining the immortal soul with the sacred heart. This is a yearning deep within our being, a seeking for the soul's fulfillment, quite like that of searching for one's life mate. In hopes that your true love is somewhere, you seek with all your heart to find that special person. After finding each other and falling in love, the agony of separation can be simply overwhelming. At last, there is recognition, but no lasting attainment until there is a soul marriage. Even then, from time to time, the two are apart and experience the yearning for blessed reunion. What a wonderful way of declaring the true love between the Sacred Heart and the soul. Yahshua described the Sacred Heart as the feminine presence of divinity and the soul as the masculine presence of divinity. Both incarnate within each person as the very power of supplying life. This image allows us to see each loving the other forever as bride and groom, each seeking to know the other's passion throughout eternity. This is the holy vision which we practice in our therapeutic breathwork training. The first principle is, be the love that you are. You see, when you are being the love you are also being the child of God that you are. You are being the likeness of God, presence here upon the earth to forward the creation of your source in whatever situations you find yourself. This causes immediate changes in your outlook and performance. The first thing that happens is that you rise above the problems facing you. This is critical to success because no problem is solved at the level at which it's created. Einstein said this. The solution to every problem is to be found at a level that is slightly or even greatly above the conflicting perceptions. As long as you are eye to eye with your difficulty, you will fight the problem rather than resolve it. When you are being the love that you are, you will realize that the secret of success already exists in the nature of your beingness. Solutions to problems, answers to prayers, and revelations of purpose already exist. It's your duty and challenge to make yourself available to receive them. Experimenting with embracing love as who you are rather than as something you have. Take Class 3, Handout 1, Love is Who I Am. Section 1, As Love, A. My heart's desire for myself in taking this course is, and B. What I want most to share with others in taking this course is. Section 2, A. A time in my life when just being the love that I am is what made a positive difference in another's life was. B. A time when someone else being the love who they are made a positive difference in my life was. Section 3. In the name of love, A. What I'm willing to repair in my life is, and a step I will take in this is. B. What I'm willing to continue in my life is, and a step I will take in this is. And C. What I'm willing to create in my life is, and a step I will take in this is. As you breathe into your heart, complete Handout 1 and return to the video. Love is the magnetic force that holds the universe together. It's not a sentimental emotion. Yahshua explains, love commands the universe. Humans resort to control only when love is missing. Control is a very shabby substitute for command, and it's an enormously exhausting pursuit. One of the most refreshing realizations that you may have in being the love that you are is the greater feeling of restfulness. In a world obsessed with control, it's difficult to find even a moment's rest. In many ways, control is a competition for dominance of time and timing. As you command with love, you will notice that the timing of your life will be much more consistent with your own purpose and true nature. When you command, you can also rest. This is the importance of the biblical reference to God resting on the Sabbath. Now, I fully realize that this Western imagery and approach may not appeal to everyone. So let's look at an Eastern approach up the mountain of spiritual enlightenment. The Buddhist teaching of Zen ox herding. Spiritual fulfillment is a journey undertaken by humans from time immemorial. It will help us put our personal journey in context by showing the parallels to one of the venerable traditions of our world cultures, which has preserved its version of this journey in written and oral forms. Taming the Ox, as it's called, is a succinct Zen Buddhist guide to common stages humans traverse on the path to union with Source or enlightenment. It surveys 10 stages of enlightenment as it often unfolds in a human life, although not necessarily in this order or with this timing. In this teaching, the ox is a symbol for enlightenment, the goal of Buddhist studies. It's believed that the ox symbol was chosen due to the East Indians' reverence for cows, which are considered sacred. What is enlightenment? Instead of being an experience, enlightenment transcends all experiences, all duality. Enlightenment is the full, embodied, and abiding realization that while the forms of this world are ever-changing, something lasting and infinite persists, uniting everything. Separation is seen as an illusion. All forms have this, quotes Buddha nature, arising and returning to it, never apart from it. The enlightened person is perpetually in touch with this eternal source. The journey towards enlightenment begins by seeing the world as mundane and made up of separate forms. It culminates with the realization that nothing is mundane or separate. All is unified, oneness. It is said that each of the 10 phases of Zen ox herding can take years or lifetimes, but in rare cases, minutes, hours, or days. Stage 1, seeking the ox. All people are already, quotes, seeking the ox, that is, searching for fulfillment and happiness in their work, relationships, and other worldly pursuits. This is the inalienable right to the, quotes, pursuit of happiness as stated in the U.S. Constitution. It is this inner drive which leads us up the pyramid of happiness to find meaning and purpose in our lives. It is the impetus which leads us home. So take Class 3, Handout 2, Section 1, and make a brief note of how you pursued happiness before you put it in a spiritual or purposeful context. Complete this and return to the video. Stage 2, finding the tracks. Now, in this phase, the insight dawns that all worldly forms come and go, leaving just fleeting satisfaction. Something more lasting is sought. When we've satiated ourselves relentlessly on the first level of the pyramid of happiness with sensual pleasures, or even when we have devoted ourselves to employing our signature strengths to get gratification, the second level of the pyramid of happiness, we realize that all forms which deliver this happiness come and go, leaving an empty feeling. Take Class 3, Handout 2, Section 2, and make a brief note of when you became aware of the futile nature of continuous pleasure-seeking and that you were interested in something beyond this. Complete this and return to the video. Stage 3, first glimpse of the ox. This refers to a person's first, quotes, spiritual experience, or satori, flash of insight. It can take the form of an epiphany, oneness awareness while out in nature, a near-death experience, or kundalini during meditation. The, quotes, glimpse makes an impact and inspires us to continue on the journey. This whets our appetite to seek the conditions which will more likely promote the chances of increasing these happenings. For example, reading books, going to classes, retreats, workshops, the company of like-spirited others, etc. Take Class 3, Handout 2, Section 3, and make a brief note of one of your first awakenings to what is beyond consensus reality. Complete this and return to the video. Stage 4, catching the ox. Now, at this stage, changes in focus and life structure are inevitable. One begins to lose attachment to material things and may change their job, relationships, or other circumstances to make their spiritual journey a priority. Take Class 3, Handout 2, Section 4, and make a brief note of what you did to put your life on a more conscious spiritual path. Complete this and return to the video. Stage 5, taming the ox. The seeker becomes aware that there is a watcher dimension within them that is independent of thoughts, perceptions, and emotions. It is the space from which all I thoughts arise. Take Class 3, Handout 2, Section 5, and make a brief note of when you became aware of the, quotes, watcher that was beyond your monkey mind or default mode network in your brain. Complete this and return to the video. Stage 6, riding the ox home. This watcher dimension grows stronger as the advancing practitioner is no longer ruled by the mind, thoughts, ego, and who they thought they were. We may have thoughts and emotions, but we become less and less prone to being swept away by the, quotes, monkey mind or identifying with it. Take Class 3, Handout 2, Section 6. Make a brief note of what you did in your life to strengthen the, quotes, watcher or benevolent observer dimension in yourself. For example, mindfulness training, meditation, etc. Complete this and return to the video. Stage 7, ox forgotten, self alone. We realize that we are not apart from our watcher dimension, true nature, or oneness. The seeker, the seeking, and the sought are all the same energy field and therefore one and the same. However, we may still experience ourselves as a separate being. Take Class 3, Handout 2, Section 7, and make a brief note of any experience you have had of being the energy field beyond your body or ego, even if this was a very fleeting or fragmentary experience. Complete this and return to the video. Stage 8, both ox and self forgotten. Separateness and duality evaporate as we see ourselves and all things as part of the all that is, the oneness. It is a visceral experience, not just a concept or an idea. Take Class 3, Handout 2, Section 8, and make a brief note of any experience you've had of being one with everything, even if this was very fleeting or fragmentary. Complete this and return to the video. Stage 9, returning to the source. While oneness is seen as the source of all that is, forms were thought to emerge and return to oneness instead of being continuously synonymous with it. In this phase, the linear time illusion construct dissolves. Past, present, future, and all forms are appreciated as the timeless now of oneness. Take Class 3, Handout 2, Section 9, and make a brief note of any experience you've had of being the timeless now, even if this was very fleeting or fragmentary. Complete this and return to the video. Stage 10, entering the marketplace with helping hands. The enlightened, quotes, person, unified being, is now the embodiment of awakened consciousness and returns to the, quotes, mundane life, knowing that nothing is mundane. All is oneness at all points in time and space. Bliss, gratitude, and unconditional love prevail. Take Class 3, Handout 2, Section 10, and make a brief note of any experience you have had of experiencing being no thing, while bliss, gratitude, and unconditional love prevail. Again, even if this was just a very fleeting or fragmentary experience. Complete this and return to the video. The Buddhist teaching of enlightenment overlaps with Christianity in that both emphasize being, quotes, in the world, but not of the world. After enlightenment, the forms of the world are appreciated with no attachment or aversion. Love and deep compassion reign. And while samsara, reincarnation, ends, many choose to help others become enlightened, the Bodhisattva path. Take Class 3, Handout 2, Section 11, and make a brief note of how you have been dedicated in your life in supporting others in their returning to Source or enlightenment, even if you haven't fully realized how you've been doing this until now. Complete this and return to the video. In our School of Integrative Psychology, completing a 3-day enlightenment intensive was part of the curriculum. The intensive supported everyone to hold the question, "Who am I?" for 3 days during every moment, waking and sleeping, and to communicate their experience of their truth, not thoughts about it, to partners at specific exercise periods, facilitating a breakthrough to pure experience beyond the mind or body states. For many, this was a life-changing event that shattered the illusion of separation forever. That is not to say we didn't fall back into acting as separate beings, but we can no longer deny the truth of what we fully experienced beyond this illusion. Most of us have been on the road to consciously making this a steady state in our existence ever since. It's my contention that each of us watching this video have had experiences of each of these steps on the journey to living in light during our lives. But few have been supported in putting them into a coherent narrative with the tools to achieve a more everyday state of oneness with Source. That is the point of taking this course and preparing to share this journey in the ways to which we are called as community builders. It was the support of community which led me to participate in these intensives every month for over a year, and then later to incorporate them to be taught every 2 years in our School of Integrative Psychology. A description of this process is in a book on our class reference list. Integrative Psychology. Now, in both Christian and Buddhist traditions, the application of spiritual fulfillment takes place in loving service to fellow human beings. This is the Mahayana, or greater vehicle as it's called, in which we are all in the same boat, and one person's experience on the journey is influenced by and influences everyone else's. So the more we can compassionately understand how we and others operate, the more we can avoid the pitfalls of separation and confusion. Now, here's where the study of the human psyche play a vital role in creating forms of coexistence that either help or hinder our mutuality. It's our mind that creates these forms or structures of life. For example, family rituals, educational models, entrepreneurial pursuits, etc. One fundamental error, however, is at the core of all misunderstanding of ourselves and each other. That is, creating realities with which we identify and become attached to and thereby stuck in. The tool we use in creating our realities is our mind. It's our divine right to use this tool, but it's a fatal mistake to identify with it. In so doing, we separate ourselves from true Source and begin to believe the stories we make up about the nature of ourselves as bad, ugly, unworthy of love, and set off on an endless pursuit of recovery or life of survival or resignation. The truth is, we can never do enough to earn what we already have. Let's review some of the basic operating principles of the mind and retake mastery of it rather than be subservient to it. The mind is our creation, and by its very nature has only the power we give it. It is derivative and has no ultimate power of its own or answers for our life. If we're not taking responsibility for how we program it, we fall victim to its limiting judgments and projections. This is the source of our fear and pain. The definition of hell is a place where pain never ends. When you trap yourself in your mind, you will have a hell of a time and feel despair and think there is no escape. You have the divine right to stay there and refuse all help as long as it takes to reown the love that you are and release the bonds of negative belief you have accepted about yourself and your world. By the same token, it's a simple act of self-forgiveness that can open the doors of your heart to acceptance of the divine infant at your source. How your mind works. Mind is your ability to think, evidenced by the collection of all your thoughts. You have this ability. It's not who you are. Just as you have the ability to talk, but talking is not who you are. It's something who you are does. Basic operating principles of the mind. Number one, what you concentrate on increases. For examples, people avoid me, or I'm liked by others, or I never get enough. The more I concentrate on those thoughts, the more those experiences increase in my life. 2, what you think is absolute truth is what you create in your life. Examples, people try to use each other. Life is exciting. Again, if I see these consciously or unconsciously as ultimate truth, these are the experiences that continue to be created in my life. 3, what you think continues to exert influence until you change it. Examples, the world is a scary place, or I'm helped by others. So you don't need 20 years of psychoanalysis to discover your deepest beliefs. Your beliefs are evident in how you see and talk about your world. Laws of the mind. First, the law of attraction. Thoughts and feelings attract like thoughts and feelings. Examples, negative thoughts and feelings about community. I am expected to be social when I don't want to. Will attract other negative thoughts like, oh, people are always calling me and bothering me for something. I never get a moment's peace. Positive thoughts about community might be sharing with friends is supportive and fun. Will attract thoughts like, oh, I really enjoyed the meeting last night. Oh, I learned something different even though we went overtime. So write several thoughts and feelings you have about community in your life on Class 3, Handout 3, Laws of the Mind, Section 1. Complete this and come back to the video. The second is the law of projection. I see the world through my glasses of my prevailing beliefs. Examples are, I bet most people have gotten tired of me teaching this stuff by now. That would be reflecting a negative perception I might harbor about my curriculum versus, I'm sharing some of the most affirming material that has vastly improved my life, which reflects a positive acceptance of what I'm teaching. Write an example of how you negatively interpreted someone else's interpretation of what you have to share or teach on Handout 3, Section 2. Complete this and come back to the video. The third law of the mind, the law of transformation. I help shape others' thoughts and feelings through communicating my thoughts and feelings. Now, this doesn't mean I control or make other people think, but the more I express myself, I can influence others. Examples: people don't like me, or people like me. These become commands to others. I'm in effect saying, people don't like me, or people like me. So note how you believe you've helped others shape another's beliefs about you positively and negatively on Handout 3, Section 3. Complete this and come back to the video. The fourth law of the mind is the law of harmony, balance, or synchronicity. Patterns of thought attract complementary patterns. Examples of how your role and the other person's are complements of one another. An outgoing person might be complemented by an introvert. Being an artistic person will seek out a person that's more linear. A caretaker may look for someone needing help. Stay at home, out in the world. Persecutor, victim. Person wanting to get even finds a person who is guilty and or vulnerable. So make a note of a complementary relationship you have or have had in your community on Handout 3, Section 4. Complete this and come back to the video. The 3 principles of mental mastery. So given some understanding of the metaphysics of the mind, what are the operating principles for taking charge of its working? Principle number 1, the analysis principle, states, I can discover the contents of my mind, which means we are not the victims of our so-called unconscious part of our mind. Principle 2, the affirmations principle, states, I can positively change my mind, which means I have the ability to alter the thoughts and belief structures of my mind in ways that serve me. Now, this is crucial because I use my mind to shape my reality, and if I have no control of it, my life will appear to be out of my control. Principle 3 is the goals principle, which states, I can create the results I want. Thus, I can use my understanding of the mind and my ability to change my mind to end up achieving my goals in life. Now, this puts me responsibly back in the driver's seat of my life and my fulfillment. We will now operationalize these 3 principles into action plans as community builders. How do we know what beliefs we have in our mind are producing the results in our current life? If I choose my thoughts, and my thoughts and feelings shape my life, why don't I just choose good thoughts and have a great life? Your mind has been growing and developing all your life. You've taken on thoughts and feelings of your family and culture. You may like or dislike your thoughts, but you're responsible for keeping them or not. My father told me that bankers don't deserve all that money, and that's why I robbed the bank. It's my father's fault. Well, tell that to the judge after 18 years of age. The most powerful or strongly reinforced thoughts have the greatest influence on your behavior. You are not aware of many of these. This unconscious part of the mind is the basis of low self-esteem and self-sabotage. Sometimes I'm surprised to discover I have negative beliefs or prejudices that other parts of my mind deny. How can I sort through the huge collections of thoughts I have to discover what is running my life? The analysis game, discovering the contents of my mind. Now, before we set out on the adventure of discovering our subconscious positive and negative thoughts, let's take a little poll. How would you judge this thought, positive or negative? I am safe in the world. Okay. How would you judge this thought? The world is a scary place. Okay. Now, how about this thought? It's safe for me to drive without a seatbelt. Okay. You can see that it may start to get unclear about what is positive and what is negative. These are judgments attached to fear and or love. If we set out on this journey of self-analysis like a witch hunt for negative thinking, we'll just get more ammunition with which to judge ourselves. We must rather discover how the thoughts function for us. What may be a positive functioning thought for one may be a limiting one for another source of misunderstanding in the world. We need to see with the eyes of love towards ourselves to tell the difference. More data from the field of positive psychology. Optimists tend to be happier people, but pessimists tend to be more realistic about the outcome of certain life events. So, I'm safe in crossing the highway with my eyes closed. May not be a genuinely positive thought for most people. I should be careful to whom I give my money. May not be all negative. All fears are not evil or ineffective. To condemn ourselves for having, quotes, negative thoughts or fears will slow us down on the road to self-acceptance. How I'm using my thoughts and feelings is more instructive in making the changes we want than an absolute judgment on what I'm thinking or feeling. Positive psychology, for example, advocates the right balance of positive and negative thoughts rather than trying to make every thought, quotes, positive, two affirmative to one cautious. Now, this may be a more realistic, compassionate goal and consequently have a much better chance of success and positive results for us than trying to make every thought our judgment of what's positive. So I will grow in my abilities and effectiveness if I honor my current capacity and learn to stretch in just the right amount. I can fly may be a useful thought if I'm looking to let my heart soar above my temporary travails, or if I'm trying to buy an airline ticket, but may not be truly respectful of my current abilities if I'm thinking of jumping off the roof. Better, I should test out my capacity by flying up to the roof before I try flying down if I'm working on my powers of levitation. In the following exercise, let us explore our minds compassionately, recognizing that every thought, whether we judge it as positive or negative, has some potentially useful function. We have the ability to increase the usefulness of our thinking if we are supported by having loving intentions towards ourselves in this process. Here's where we can appropriately use the Buddhist tool of mindfulness, lovingly observing but not identifying with our thoughts, and the tool of creative thought, actively changing thinking patterns that do not serve us. Each of us has the ability to discover the contents of our mind and why we are behaving the way we are if we have the courage to do so. It does not take superintelligence. Some of the, quotes, most intelligent people, IQ-wise, are blind to and thereby blinded by their feelings. Courage of the heart is the wisdom of another order and is the key to freedom and happiness. To illustrate our ability to discover the contents of our mind, we'll play the analysis game. Now, there are warnings on the package of the analysis game. It may seem too simple. You may have strong emotional reactions. mad, sad, glad, scared. This just means you're hitting a nerve of a real issue. It's a good sign. You may have judgments of yourself or others. Just let go and proceed. Your mind may go blank. Stay with the process. You may become confused, can't get it straight. Just ask your inner guidance for help. You may have tiredness. Keep breathing and move forward. When you hit pay dirt, you'll recover plenty of energy you did not know you had. Ultimately, the game is only dangerous to your misery. Okay? Here's how we play the analysis game on handout 4, the analysis game. First step is choose an area of present challenge in your community, interpersonal or personal, and write, what I have is, that is, something I want to change. For example, a fear of being open about my spiritual beliefs. And B, what I want is, that is, something I'd like to have instead. For example, comfort in being open about my spiritual beliefs. Now keep these statements as concrete, simple, and clear as possible. Okay? Step 2 is called a willing suspension of disbelief. It's something you exercise when you go to the theater or watch a movie. For example, you imagine the actor's King Henry for the purpose of learning something in the story. What you do in step 2 is imagine what I have is actually, for some reason, what I really want. This is just an instructional game, so it does not cancel out you're not wanting what you say you don't want. We're just looking for some hidden benefits in having it for now. Step 3 is the reason I want what I have. That is what you said in A that you didn't want. And you list 3 good reasons or secondary benefits that unconsciously wanting what you consciously say you don't want gives some benefits to you. Not neurotic reasons like, oh, I'm essentially a coward. That's why I deserve this punishment. No, reinforcing this does not help you at all. But realizing that you have this hidden belief can help you a lot to deal with it. Finally, step 4, we get to the limiting belief, which makes these reasons understandable or valid. So, watch your feelings as you do this exercise. If you do not have any, you're probably skating over the top of your subconscious or have picked something you don't have a big investment in. Here's an example. Let's go through the game using what I said in step 1, a fear of sharing my spiritual beliefs is what I have. And what I want is, B, less fear of sharing my spiritual beliefs. So, what would be 3 reasons for wanting fear of sharing my spiritual beliefs? Well, 1 is my fear keeps me from being rejected by others. 2 might be my fear points out how uncertain I am about my beliefs. Or 3, my fear helps me discriminate between safe and unsafe communities. So, what are the limiting beliefs which make these reasons understandable or valid? Find a principal limiting belief underneath that reason. There may be several, but just choose a main one. My first reason in step 3 was my fear keeps me from being rejected by others. So a limiting belief here could be that my beliefs are essentially separate me from others. So they should stay hidden for me to be accepted. My second reason for wanting fear of sharing my spiritual beliefs are my fear points out how uncertain I am about my beliefs. So my limiting belief here could be, well, if I were true to myself, I would be sharing my beliefs with everyone. That is a limiting belief, by the way. Okay. And 3, And my reason was, my fear helps me discriminate between safe and unsafe communities. The limiting belief here is, I'm not safe unless I'm with others who believe what I do. Okay, now understand that you may not like the limiting beliefs that emerge in this game, or even consciously agree with them. So be inclined to deny or not to write them down. But courage, my friends, it is by unearthing those fearful or limiting parts of ourselves that we can do something transformative with them, rather than play clueless about them, or judge ourselves for them, or sugarcoat over them. In playing the analysis game, know that we are going to use these limiting beliefs to recover suppressed energy and increase your aliveness more than you might imagine. So just keep breathing and complete Class 3, Handout 4, the analysis game, and come back to the video. How do I change my limiting beliefs? Now, what many schools of positive thinking do not tell us is that the so-called negative thought we have is just life energy with negative judgments attached to it, held in place by strong feelings. The energy, sensed as my feelings, is actually neutral and has the potential to be useful in my favor. The energy cannot be destroyed within the system. It's a basic law of physics. So trying to get rid of negative thoughts can be an endless struggle. But the attitude towards the negative thought can change. For example, I may be angry about not getting paid what I want on my job and have the thought, bosses always take advantage of me. Frustration always signals me to change my mind or change the scene. Thus, I can decide that actually the money I'm getting paid is just fine, or I can ask for more, or I can get a new job. Now, working with my limiting belief will help me decide what is best for me. The affirmation. I can positively change my mind. How do we effectively do this in the face of so many negative and limiting thoughts we have been exposed to, and the fears we've accumulated along the way? Now, here's where the most powerful tool humans have must be learned and skillfully used: the affirmation. An affirmation is a consciously chosen thought, sentence if you will, to precisely counter the limiting beliefs in a way that initiate a productive course of action. It's not just a flowery, sentimental saying that leads to no significant change in my life. Then it's worthless. It has been trivialized as a rote, simplistic repetition of a generic platitude. On the other hand, we have all experienced the thought that gives us the aha reaction when uncovering a truth that frees us. A good affirmation is our sword of truth that cuts through doubt and illusion and opens the heart to breathe and manifest its true desire in this life. To construct a genuine affirmation, we use the 4 P's guideline. This is a retraining of our mental self-talk that assails us continuously. Herein is the key to change. The 4 P's of affirmation writing. A good affirmation is, first, positive. The affirmation must direct me towards what I want. Get the nots out. Good example, I am attracting community members that I enjoy and are mutually supportive. Bad example, I'm not going to have negative people around me that depress me. The mind, like a dog, works on commands to the universe. The first sentence has the embedded commands, I attract, and I enjoy, and I am supported. The second sentence has the commands, I'm not going to have people around me and depress me. The second P is personal. The affirmation must be about me and my life rather than generic conditions. It must move me personally. I must be willing to feel it for it to be effective. Good example, I'm feeling more joy in my community life each day. Bad example, life should be lived joyfully in community. So affirmations can be used in the second and third person also. So, Jim, you feel more joy in your community life each day. Or, Jim feels more joy in his community life each day. The first person affirmation, however, is usually the best place to start. However, we can optimize our change of mind by being able to affirm in all three modes. The third P, present. The affirmation generally touches me most effectively if it's stated in the present tense, not future or past. So, good example. I'm finding more safety in my body as I share from my heart. Bad example. I will feel more safety in my body when I learn to share from my heart. Or, if I had learned to share from my heart in my family, I'd be safer in my body now. Okay? The mind looks for loopholes. That is, will and when are in the future, so I don't have to do anything about it now to change. Affirming negatively in the past also reinforces it in the present. The fourth P is practical. The affirmation needs to stretch me the right degree, not overwhelm or underwhelm me. I know when it's right for me. So bad examples will be, everyone thinks I'm the greatest. Now my mind can't and shouldn't buy this. Or, someday if I'm lucky, someone may think I'm okay. It's a wimpy goal. Okay, so a good example now is going to depend on just what's right for me. It clicks for me. Examples may be, I'm enjoying my relationships more and more. Or I'm bringing people into my life who appreciate me for who I am. Now, all these four P's may be overridden by the fifth P, passion. If a thought really turns you on, lights your fire, it may be the most effective for you. Affirmation writing process. Now, let's put these guidelines into action by taking the limiting beliefs you came up with in the analysis game and changing them into positive affirmations. We use the limiting beliefs because, one, they're in our way and need to be redirected, and two, they have emotional energy which now can be used in our favor. On handout 5, affirmations, write an affirmation for each limiting belief from step 4 on handout 4. Complete this and come back to the video. The goals principle, I can produce the results I want, puts our affirmations to work in our community building. Making this principle effective in your mind mastery is to put clarity and passion into what you want. This means the greater specificity and love you can bring to your goals in life, and the more alignment they are with your purpose, the more effectively they will manifest to your benefit and for the good of all. This is the time for us to review the statement of purpose as a community builder we wrote and the goals we enumerated for our communities of family, social, and work, as well as our teaching communities. So I'm asking you to review your Class 1, Handout 1 Statement of Purpose and Community, and then review your goals and intentions on Class 1, Handout 2, Advanced Practicum Life Communities, and Class 1 on Handout 3, Advanced Practicum Teaching Communities. And make a note now on Class 3, Handout 6, Goals Enhancement. You make on these goals to bring more clarity and passion to them. Complete Class 3, Handout 6 before next class. Let's review our homework for Class 3 on Handout 7, Homework for Class 3. Number 1, Journaling Sentence Stem. Daily write in your own journal and or on our class email thread. A way I connected with my source today is. And a second stem for the month is, a way I took charge of my mind today is. 2, breath practice. Do the daily breath exercise up and down your spine and listen to the voice of your guides and guidance about connecting with Source and mastering your mind. For extra credit to yourself, you may choose to make notes in a journal or on the class email thread. 3, community connection. Intend spiritual connectedness each day for all of our class, presently or at any time in the future, as the community of spirit grows. Have a positive intention for a particular person in your spiritual community each day. Share the work of your class handouts with a trusted, supportive companion who will understand and champion your goals. Do this with someone in the course if possible. 4, daily practice. Do some form of spiritual practice, no matter how brief or long, in the morning, for example, a dedication for the day, sun salutes, prayer, and in the evening, before you go to bed, for example, gratitude acknowledgement, silent reflection, or dreamtime intention. A brief journaling is one of the most powerful practices to reinforce progress, as long as it is positive in intent. So again, I encourage you to share your awareness and progress with another supportive human, someone in this course if possible. The more we share and reinforce each other's progress, the more we learn from each other, and the more exponentially we grow and enhance our world. Anyone feeling called to be a community builder and teach transformations courses, contact me for information. Now, at this point in our community building work, we are deepening our inner certitude of who we are as community builders, as we are extending our communities of spirit in family, social, work, as well as teaching. Here is where everything we learn in our community with one another deepens our inner wisdom and ability to have this reflected in our presence in the world. Any way we grow individually and as a collective influences the vibratory constellation of the planet. Consequently, just releasing a judgment we had during the day with a store clerk, or a trauma we had as a child that has been with us our whole life, demonstrates to the world our spirit can be in charge of human history henceforward, and that each of us has the capacity to master our minds. Even if no one were told about this victory in your own life, the shift in your place in the unified field of universal consciousness would be a victory for us all, increasing the faith in the undauntedness of the human spirit. Our power in the universe is to bring collective consciousness back into alignment with truth, simplicity, and love, one conscious breath and thought at a time. We do this work as community builders each day by using our minds to be discerning of what is useful and healing and growing for us, not judging and separating ourselves as above or below others. Each of us has been given the power to end the reign of separating judgments in the world, controlled by fear, and to bring peace into our hearts in the eternal now of love. Holding you in my heart as fellow travelers on the road home, I send and receive blessings for our circle and all sentient beings. Till next class, blessings in light and love.